Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome back everyone to our open Q&A session. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering, inshallah. May it be a gathering of knowledge such that the angels cover us with their mercy, and may this testify for us on our behalf Yawm al-Qiyamah, inshallah. Tonight we have quite a few questions. By my counting, we have 55 questions. I might not be able to get to all of them because some of them I don't want to be rushed through answering them. So if we cannot finish all the questions, I will mark the ones that I have not completed, and we'll add those to the next one, inshallah. Okay, and again, these are anonymous, so and just the order that I received them. Somebody says that I have mentioned previously that combining prayers, Dhuhr and Asr, is permitted without reason within the Shafi'i madhab. I have heard this opinion with some relatives, shared this opinion with some relatives, and they wondered if they could combine regularly out of convenience or if it is permitted only on an occasional basis. Could you please advise? As I said, this is a hadith is narrated in Muslim by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam combined Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha in Medina for no reason. And in the narrations in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad of that same hadith, they asked him why, and Ibn Abbas said, so that there would be no difficulty for my ummah. So this is a dispensation that we have. And as a matter of fact, this is how the Shia pray. The Shia pray 5 prayers a day, but 3 times a day. And they combine Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. So there is a asal for that. There's a source for that in our deen, that makes sense. So yes, you can follow this dispensation, especially if you live in the West, because the distances here are very far. The availability of finding a mosque or a place to make wudu or a safe place to pray is not that easy. So if you want to continually do this living in the West, it's fine. If you live in the Muslim world, then one would say you can follow it, but not out of a habit. So you wouldn't do it habitually because there are mosques everywhere and places to pray everywhere. Somebody is asking about, some of the questions are very long, so I'm going to summarize. Somebody's asking about the 529 education saving plans and about zakah on them. There is no zakah on the 529 plans because you're saving this for the purposes of education. And in the Hanafi madhab, they allow if you isolate a certain amount of funds for needs, like so my children can get married, or in this case for education, then you don't have to pay zakah on that amount. If you don't pay that money towards your children's education, and then you take the money, you withdraw the money and you pay the penalty, if the money that after you withdrawn it, if that is above the nisab, then you're going to pay zakah on that. That's a different situation. But we're just assuming that you're putting money into the plan for the purposes of education, and then you spend down that money for your children's education. There's no zakah on that. Someone gave my newborn son gold jewelry as a gift. Since it is not permissible for boys, can I sell it or have my wife buy it for herself and give him cash? That sounds like somebody's like trying to circumvent paying zakah. So first of all, if your son was giving, it's very common, even in our culture, we give gold coins and things like that. So somebody gives your son gold jewelry, okay, your son can't wear the jewelry, but your son can own the jewelry. So a man can own jewelry for the purposes of, if it's gold, for example, for investment or something like that. In that case, because it is not lawful for us to have gold jewelry, I would pay zakah on that if that was mine. So in this case, you can either have your son retain the money and then you would just pay the zakah on that, or you could sell it and convert it into cash, and you're free to do with it what you want. But I don't want somebody to assume because men can't wear gold jewelry somehow we can't have something gold. Those are two different things. I mean, have you ever been to a jewelry store like in the Middle East? No, they're all men are in the jewelry store. You know, and they're like holding all of they're selling to our wives and things like that. That's fine. The man owns the jewelry store and that's his inventory. There's nothing wrong with that. It just has different zakah implications. Okay, if we agree for a cab to come the next day for a certain price, or we agree that someone came to fix our AC the next day at a certain price, and then while he is on his way we cancel because we don't need that anymore, is there a sin and breach of contract? No, there's no breach of contracts because we are bil khiyar. The Prophet ﷺ said that as long as we are in the phase of the contract, we have the right to rescind the contract, both the buyer and the seller. So this is part of contract law. Is it a low blow? Yeah, it's a low blow. It's not nice to do that to somebody because they've taken it upon themselves to come. Sometimes there'll be a cancellation fee or something like that to accommodate it. But situations happen, and if you don't need it, that's fine. There's no sin involved in that, nor is there a breach of contract. It's just not cool, It's not a nice thing to do to somebody who has made a plan. But it happens. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, somebody's asking about saying that we wear suits to work. First of all, I don't know who wears suits to work anymore, but I'll just go with the question. We still wear a suit to work? Okay, alhamdulillah. Maybe I'm divulging too much of my own private life. There are those of us who wear suits to work. It becomes very difficult to clean najasa out of the suits, which we can't put in the washing machine or which are damaged by water. The same for ladies' dresses. It's not a usual occurrence, but sometimes it happens that najasa gets on these clothes. I heard there's a Hanafi fatwa that allows dry cleaning to clean najasa. Can we follow this rukhsa? I don't know anything about this Hanafi position, but let me just address the issue of najasa. Najasa is religiously identified filth. In other words, not everything that we consider filthy is najasa. So najasa is urine, feces, blood. Anything else is just dirt. Maybe we are upset that it's on our body, but it's not najis. Najasa is a Sharia definition. So when somebody says, I have najasa on my suit, I have a lot of questions. Does that mean you have feces and urine and blood on your suit? So I just want people to understand that question. Anyway, let's just go with the verbiage of the question. Najasa, it's an obligation for us to remove the najasa. But the najasa can be removed in multiple ways. So if there's dry najasa, you could just move it away and then it's removed. If it's wet najasa, then you have to remove it usually by water, but by other means, as long as the color and the smell and the texture of that which is najis is no longer on the body part. The only thing that we have to use water for is for the saliva of a dog and a pig in the four madhabs, in the Shafi'i, in the Hanafi, and the Hanbali madhab. As for Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, he deemed all living creatures to be pure, and therefore he did not see that hadith as something that is obligatory. He had another interpretation of that hadith. So if I'm wearing a suit, or my jubba that I wear in Jummah, it's the same material, it's wool, I can't wash that with water, water will ruin it. So if I was in a place, for example, and a dog came and licked me, I would have to follow the position of Imam Malik, because if I didn't follow that position, I would have to wash it 7 times, 1 time with the earth, and that would ruin it completely. So the first thing to note is that najasa needs to be removed, and as long as we remove it, its trace, its color, its smell, its texture, etc., we're fine. The only thing that requires water is the saliva of a dog and a pig. And the rest of the things might be qadhurat. They might be things that we do not like snot or something like that. Those things bother us, or food fell on me, but that's not considered najis, that's just considered dirt. So there's a difference in the Sharia between the definition, and I hope that helps. As far as the Hanafi fatwa, I don't know about that. I would have to look into it. I didn't have a chance to look into it before tonight's session. Yes, that's the best way to do it. And even if you had these kind of clothes, if you used a little bit of water or sparkling water and you tapped it and dabbed it, you can do it in a way that doesn't ruin the material. All right, as a stepfather, can you be a mahram of your stepdaughter for Hajj or Umrah? Also, what is your financial responsibility after your death for your stepdaughter that can be put in part of the will? If you marry a woman and you consummate the marriage, then you are a permanent mahram for her children, and vice versa. So you are her mahram. وَرَبَائِبُكُمْ الَّتِي فِي حُجُورِ نِسَائِكُمْ. That verse in the Quran. So you are a mahram for Hajj and for Umrah and for all other things. As far as financial responsibility after death, you can put her in the will through a wasiyah. You can give a bequest, and the wasiyah for us is up to 1/3. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Athuluth wa thuluthu kathir." So the fuqaha determined that you can bequest up to 1/3 of your estate to whoever you want, up to 1/3, without permission of the inheritors. If you want to give more than 1/3, then you have to take permission of all the inheritors. Is it considered haram to have a credit card and borrow money even if you pay off the balance every month and do not accrue interest on the balance? Are the points, cash rewards given from the credit card companies considered as receiving riba? Well, of course you can use a credit card, but when you say borrow money, if you mean you want to borrow money from the credit card and pay that back with interest, that's haram. Because that's a debt that is not backed by an asset. However, I think the questioner means you use your credit card throughout the month and then you pay the bill in full before the deadline. If that's what you're doing, that's fine, because the credit card is a form of wakala. It's a form of deputizing somebody to buy on your behalf. Like if I gave Imam Rifai some money and said, can you go buy me from the bookstore 123, that's what the credit card company is. You're deputizing the credit card company to make the purchase on your behalf. As far as the points and rewards in cash, that's fine. Inshallah, that's not riba. And that has to do with the status of paper money not having riba in it, which is the Shafi'i opinion. That's fine. I mean, if I'm using the credit card throughout the month and then I get the bill and I pay the bill in full, that's fine. If I borrow money with a student loan or home mortgage without knowing it was haram, besides paying the loans off as soon as possible, is there anything else I need to do to get the sin forgiven besides making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, taking out a home mortgage and a student loan is not haram. So that's the first thing to say about the question. The home mortgage and the home mortgage, we don't consider it to be a loan, we consider it to be finance, a tamweel. So a debt, a qard is different than tamweel. A debt or taking a loan is different than finance. If the money that is taken is to finance an asset, house, property, whatever, then that is a halal transaction. As far as the student loans are concerned, of course there's no asset, but an education is considered a darura, it's considered a necessity, and therefore we allow this type of transaction out of necessity. So inshallah, the money that you took is halal, and you have incurred no sin, inshallah. Is investing in my provided 401k haram? No, it's investment for your future. There's nothing wrong with that. What rewards if anyone gets when he or she does hajj on behalf of somebody else? Well, inshallah, you get the reward of the hajj for doing it, and then your sins are forgiven. In addition to the person on whose behalf you made the hajj, it also receives that reward. Of course, the condition of that is that you have to have made hajj for yourself first. So you have to fulfill your personal obligation, and then you can make hajj for whomever. Can one do umrah or hajj if the person has not done the pilgrimage before? Well, hajj is the pilgrimage. I mean, yes, you can do umrah. In the Shafi'i madhab, the umrah is an obligation to do once in your life, like the hajj. And you can do umrah because the time of hajj is tight, right? The time of hajj is from the first day of Shawwal, the first day of Eid al-Fitr, until the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. Those are Ashhur al-Hajj. Those are the months of Hajj, and it's limited. So let's say outside of that, 7-8 months outside of that, you have the opportunity to go to make pilgrimage. You're going to go and make umrah. It's just out of a function of time. That's the time that you have to go. So inshallah, that's fine. And we ask Allah Ta'ala to write for us all Hajj, inshallah. Hajj Mabrur, inshallah. Okay, somebody's asking, like here in the mosque, if somebody loses their wudu, and we have like a big function, or it's Friday prayer or something like that, and it's crowded, can somebody do tayammum? In general, no. If you are in a place that has water, you have to make wudu with the water, even if it's inconvenience. And at this mosque, we try our best, to make the bathrooms accessible. We have bathrooms upstairs, downstairs, and in the new building, we have multiple bathroom facilities, inshallah. There is some dispensation in the Maliki madhab if you come to prayer late, and if you're going to make the prayer, if you're going to miss the prayer by going to make wudu, you can make tayammum. So if you go into North African mosques, where the Maliki madhab is predominant, you will find that they have stones all throughout the mosque, because you can make tayammum on the stone. So there is a dispensation for that, but it's only one position. And in the other madhahib, if you make tayammum in a place in which normally water is, then after that prayer, you have to make up that prayer with wudu. Why? Because tayammum is less strong than wudu. So wudu, the definition of wudu is the act that allows you to pray with its full conditions. Tayammum does not, wudu is the act which lifts the state of impurity. Raf al-hadath. Tayammum does not lift the state of impurity, it simply allows you to pray. It's a fiqh definition, so it's less than wudu. So if we're in the mosque right now, and the water is cut off for whatever reason, now this is a place usually where there is water, but now there's no water. We will all have to make tayammum and pray. But because this is a place in which there usually is water, we have to make up that prayer when we go back home or when the water comes back with wudu. Why? Because tayammum does not raise from you the state of impurity the way water does with the wudu. But if we are in a place, if we're traveling or we're out in a place in which there is no water normally, and we run out of water, we packed water with us, then you can make tayammum, and then that prayer does not need to be made up again. So because of that, if this is the scenario, if you're in the mosque and you lose your wudu, go make wudu in the bathroom. Can you repeat the guidance you provided for marriage between a non-Muslim and a Muslim? Well, I mean, it's not guidance, it's just what the Sharia teaches us, is that a Muslim woman can only marry a Muslim man, and for Imam Abu Hanifa, a Muslim man can marry a Kitabiyya, can marry a Jew or a Christian only, not other people of Ahlul Kitab. Ahlul Kitab as a concept is any pre-Islamic organized religion. But within Ahlul Kitab, not all of the Ahlul Kitab receive the same rulings in Islam. So we only eat the dhabiha of the Ahlul Kitab, meaning the Jews and the Christians, not the food of like the Zoroastrians and the Hindus or something like that. So when it comes to marriage of a Kitabiyya here in this context, we only mean the Jews and Christians. As far as coexistence and non-Muslim minorities in Muslim lands and things like that, we deal with all of those people the way we deal with Ahlul Kitab. Zoroastrians, Hindus, Buddhists, Shinto, Confucius, so on and so forth, all of them. That's a different category. That's from the point of view of coexistence. When it comes to marriage, Imam Abu Hanifa allowed that. The other madhahib don't, and that's a little bit of a surprise for some people. But in the Shafi'i madhab, we don't allow a Muslim man to marry outside, to marry a Kitabiyya, because the Shafi'is argue that what was meant was the original people of the book, yani at the time of the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyway, that being the case, marriage in general is something that is always legislated by religion. Every religion, they legislate their own form of marriage. Of course, today people want to just do it civilly and want to have a personal choice. That's an aberrancy. That's not how it has been historically. Historically, marriage has always been something that's been regulated by religion, and all Orthodox religions do not allow their people to marry outside of the faith. This is all just a modern type of situation. And in that regard, we are no different. And that's really, there's not much more for me to say about that. Well, if they convert, then they're Muslim, so it goes both ways. Only Imam Abu Hanifa allows that. The other madhahib don't allow that. Now, of course, if somebody converts, then they convert, and then we take the conversion as real. We don't assume anything. So that's obviously another scenario altogether. If a marriage happened in Bangladesh, can a divorce be filed in the US and vice versa? Does the Sharia have a ruling on this? Yes, because we are following the Sharia parameters for both marriage and divorce. So if you're married in Bangladesh or Timbuktu or Ottawa or California, and you follow there's a wali and there's the mahar and the verbiage, then you're married. Doesn't matter where you go, you're married. And likewise, if there is a correct divorce pronouncement, then you are divorced. It doesn't matter where you go. You might need to file certain civil documents to certify the marriage and the divorce, but that's secondary. But for us, the marriage is what takes place verbally, and the divorce is what takes place verbally, and what is written down from a civil point of view simply certifies what has already taken place. Yes, this is by ijma', this is by consensus.
Haram?
Yes.
Because I've seen a lot. Oh, thank you so much.
A Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim man by consensus. Sunnis, Shias, the old Muslims, the new Muslims, Eastern, every sect, every group of Islam has consensus. This is one of the few things that everyone agrees to.
So if they get married and I'm not allowed to go to their ceremony because I feel like this is a haram thing that they have done.
That's a separate issue. That's
because I've seen a lot of Muslim women these days. They marry.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I find a prospective partner for marriage in college, is it a sin to meet often until we are sure? Yeah, as long as your parents know and that it's done out in the open, then that would be fine. Bil ma'ruf, with what is right and what is considered for us proprietary. You're not going to hide from him, obviously, or her. You're going to see them around campus and whatnot. So that's fine as long as the parents know and it's above board. In recent times, there have been sad incidences where drug addiction and availability of marijuana has resulted in death, suicide. In the counseling work that you and Imam Rifai provide, what is your guidance to parents as to tackle this at home from a religious point of view? And are there special du'as that a parent can ask? Well, in general, any dua that we make for our children is one of the accepted du'as. So we should always pray for our children, and we should always be optimistic in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering our dua for our children. As far as guidance, unfortunately, the problem with drugs is there's a social component, and then there's also a component of addiction. When it becomes an addiction, then there becomes a chemical dependency on the drug, and there's very little that I or Imam Rifai can do other than to refer you to an expert to help you solve the addiction. You might have the desire to stop and to quit, but it's an addiction, it's an illness, and it's a sickness and a disease, and therefore it needs to be treated in that way. But what we can do is maybe help before it gets to the point in where it's an addiction. And I think that that's one of the problems that I notice, is that I feel people come to us too late. They come to us and they expect us to fix all of the problems. Whereas I think we're supposed to come involved in the beginning, not at the end. Because at the end, you need somebody, as I said, who's going to be specifically able to deal with these type of things. However, I think it's important that we provide venues and opportunities for our children to release their stress and their energy. And there's physical exercise, there's sports, there's after-school activities, there's the activities that we provide at the mosque. Of course, we can always do more. We're trying to do more. But being busy and being involved and leading an active life in things that build on each other is the best way to. The rush and the thrill that you're going to receive from achieving these goals is going to be greater than the rush and the high that you're going to have from drugs, which is just chemically induced and very temporary. So we have to create the space where the children can get involved with these type of things. As far as suicide, suicide is the same thing. There's a suicide hotline, and the people can be involved. Oftentimes depression is involved, and depression can also be a chemical situation or needs chemical attention and medicine involved. So we are happy to help, but we have to also رحم امرئ عرف قدر نفسه. Blessed is the person who knows the limits of their own limits. So there's only so much we can do. If something is so progressed, then there's very little we can do other than guide you to the experts that can help in that matter.
May I add that this has now become a very serious issue in our community, even in the greater Washington area. So your point about creating the space and being proactive in the masjids, and the imams can use that space, that opportunity to base their khutbahs, halakas, particularly the khutbahs, I would say, a series over a period of time might be very helpful to raise the awareness. And in addition, maybe a special session or two over here where we invite professionals like the psychiatrists and counselors to come in, because the imams themselves may not have the techniques to address this. And we could probably have a series of events like this in the fall, because we've had instances here in the last several months of all those points that this questionnaire has raised.
I mean, of course, all of the above we need to do and more. And I think it comes down to, our children are under a lot of peer pressure at school and in their friends group, and as a minority community, it's sometimes doubly hard. And the mosque has to be that safety valve where we come and we're comfortable and we can explore and we can have fun and we can learn and we can grow all of us together. But if the mosque is like a restrictive area where everything is haram and halal and we only pray and it's just one like a monologue, it's just like me or Imam Rifai preaching and that's it, there's no dialogue involved in it, then we've missed the mark, because the mosque is supposed to be much more from that. If there's so much pressure out there, then this has to be the place where people have their pressure, it's a safety valve and they feel comfortable and they're happy and they long to come. Alhamdulillah, in general, I think many people share that sentiment specifically with our mosque, that they enjoy coming to the mosque and participating. And even, like in the nights of Ramadan, we never go outside and ask the kids to come and pray Taraweeh. Not once have we ever done that. We just come to the mosque. Just come and play basketball. After Isha or Maghrib, play basketball all night long. We're fine. You don't have to come inside and listen to anything or pray. Just be here with us and have a good time. And it worked. And I know there are a lot of families that say, our kids bring us to the mosque because they love coming in. And I think that we have to be more open to that, all of the above. And if the problem is, growing, then we have to grow and rise to meet the problem, to meet that challenge, inshallah. Or else we will be derelict in our duty. So I guess something is going to come down as a result of that, inshallah, very soon. If a person falls sick, can sadaqah be a healer? Yes, the Prophet ﷺ said, Dawu mardakum bisadaqat. Heal your sick with sadaqah. And many, many stories of people that were sick and then they give sadaqah and the sickness is relieved. Many, many stories from the Salaf and the saintly people and so on and so forth. So yes, giving sadaqah is a form of healing, a form of purifying the money. Alhamdulillah. What are the essential rules for the delivery of the Jummah khutbah? The Jummah khutbah, there needs to be the introduction in which Allah Ta'ala is praised and the Shahada is recited, and there's a general admonition of having taqwa. And that part has to be done in Arabic. So, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ittaqullah. I mean, it could be as short as that. And then you sit down, and then you stand up, and then you say, Wa aqim as-salat, and then you pray. That's Jummah, that's it. So there's two khutbahs, you sit in the middle, and in the beginning, you do the things that I just said, and then the actual sermon part can be done in any native language. Of course, there are differences of opinion, but of the opinions that allow the khutbah to be not in Arabic, that's the minimal amount. Some people are stuck with this position, it's the Hanafi position, that the khutbah has to be in Arabic. So what they do is they give a bayan. So somebody stands and they speak in the native language, and then either that person or somebody else will come and do the actual khutbah all in Arabic. And many times they memorize Arabic khutbas that are like from the medieval period, and they're like praying for Sultan Qayat Bey and the dua, and people that have passed away, and it's very funny sometimes. In Kenya, in one of the mosques I went to, they made me do that. They said you have to give the bayan in English, and then you have to get on the minbar and do the khutbah in Arabic. But that's just one position. For Muslim minority communities, that opinion is not the most compatible opinion. But the more compatible opinion is that you do the minimal amount that you have to do in Arabic, and then you stand, sit, stand, the second khutbah is dua, and that's it, and then you pray. That's all you have to do for Salat al-Jumu'ah. Like the day when the AC was broken and I had to give the khutbah, I gave a very short khutbah along those lines. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina. I wanted to say something else about the khutbah. In the Shafi'i madhab, you have to have a minimum of 40 people. That's correct, including the khatib. But I mean, I don't announce that part, because if you said that, people would stop coming to Jummah. So, because there are other opinions, of course. So we should have Jummah no matter what. Yeah, it's 3. Actually, in the books of fiqh, they'll say there are like over 19 opinions about how the minimal amount. One opinion says it's just the khatib and someone to listen to the khatib. So, and sometimes when I give the khutbah, everyone's asleep. I really feel like there's only one person that's listening to me, if anyone. But anyway, that's another issue. But we should definitely have Jummah no matter what, because if that's a slippery slope. We should have Jummah no matter what. And like I said, the minimal amount is the minimum amount. Of course, a condition of Jummah, I should also mention, is that you have to have permission to have Jummah. But as American citizens, the permission is granted to us by the Constitution itself. So in a country not like the United States, you have to actually go through some kind of, even if it's ceremonial, like a license that it has to be like a legit. You can't just show up on the corner and have Jummah, because you have to have government permission to do the Jummah. So in other Muslim minority countries, that is actually a concern. They have to get licensed and things like that. But for us, we have, this is obviously, as we know, our constitutional right. So we're a duly constituted mosque, and therefore our Jummah is valid. All of our masajid, our Jummah is valid, inshallah.
For the Arabic khutbah, the Hanafi school is a split, actually. People don't know. So even though I'm Hanafi, I follow the other Hanafi school. It can be mixed, as long as some of them.
It's the sum, yeah.
Some, but the Mu'tamid is the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's
fine. I mean, because sometimes, I have been in those masajid where the guy is droning on in Arabic and no one understands. And it's like a memorized khutbah from the 13th century. So it might be a sound, there are many of our opinions in our madhahib are sound, might be sounder than, like as you said, than the other ones, but it's not like necessarily applicable. And that's why, alhamdulillah, we have the plurality of, to choose.
And what about the dua in other languages?
The khutbah, the dua can be in English. It doesn't have to be in Arabic.
Other duas?
In the salah? In the salah, you can make dua in any language, but that would be silent, like when you're in sujood or something like that. But the dua of the qunut, that has to be done in Arabic, in the prayer. Yeah.
Then after that salah?
That's fine, you can do any language, it's fine. Yeah. Maybe we can have like a workshop or something for the Jummah, I guess, to train people. That might not be a bad idea. Man, I'm not even halfway. Okay. I do not know how to read Arabic. Can I read the Quran using English transliteration? Of course, I do know the Fatiha and a few surahs by heart when I pray. Of course, that's fine. The transliteration is fine. You can read the translation. You can listen to the Quran. Do anything that gives you a relationship with the Quran. Don't ever conclude, therefore I can't touch the Quran, therefore I can't read the Quran. If you do that, then something's gone wrong in your thinking. That's like one of the plays that shaitan has. He's going to try to make us not pick up the Quran. So pick up the Quran, read the translation, read the transliteration, have a relationship with the Quran, and the Quran will have a relationship with you. If a person passes away, what are the rules of how soon the burial can take place? Some send the body overseas, which takes days. Will the soul be affected by the delays caused by the family? As we say, ikramul mayyit dafni. definitely. So we honor the deceased by burying the deceased as soon as possible. So the washing of the body, the janazah prayer, and the burial should all be taking place as soon as is possible. Now, bodies that are shipped overseas, sometimes that happens because somebody's not a citizen or a resident, and therefore there are laws, and sometimes they have to be shipped overseas. Of course, out of necessity, that's fine. But the idea that somebody dies in the family and we're going to hold everything because we got to bring everybody together, that's not our way, that's not our sunnah. Because remember, the focus here is on the person who has died, not on us and how we feel. We feel bad, and the family feels bad. But waiting is not in the best interest of the deceased. It makes us feel better. But that's secondary or tertiary. The primary focus is to make sure that this person that has passed away, it's now a communal obligation, it's a fardu kifaya. We have to do it as a community to make sure that the body is washed properly, shrouded, prayed upon, and buried according to the sunnah, on the right side, facing the qibla. And that's how we honor the deceased. Just like when I die, do that for me, please. Bury me in the backyard here as soon as possible, inshallah. And I'll always keep a watchful eye on ICCP, inshallah. So of course the sunnah is to bury in the earth, but there are every state, or maybe now it's every county, I think it's a state thing, there are state regulations. So sometime in our state or in our county, we have the cement coffin inside, but it's huge. So grave liner, it's sophisticated, mashallah, the lawyer, the grave liner. So the grave liner is very big. So that is the grave. The grave liner is the grave. So we just put the dirt around the body when we put the body inside, and we tilt it towards the right. Putting the body directly inside the grave liner, that would be optimal. But if a couple of funerals we've had, the box has gone in, and I think it's almost like a regulation thing has changed. I don't know if it's changed or. Because they don't, it's messy to get, yeah, okay, I see. In the case when we have the casket inside, we open the casket and we fill the casket with earth. I mean, it's all permissible, it's not like, but what's better is to put the body in earth. As a matter of fact, the sunnah is not even that. The sunnah is called al-lahd. Al-lahd is when you dig down and to the side, and then you put the body in the side. That's how Rasulullah ﷺ was buried. To bury straight down is called a shaq. That's the way we do it here. But the sunnah is a lahd. Yeah. So but I mean, obviously we don't do that here. So I'm just saying all of these things are by necessity, they're permissible. In Egypt, it's even more freaky. In Egypt, we don't do either of these things. Each family has a plot, and it's a room under the ground with steps, and this room is for men and this room is for women, and every time somebody dies we open it up and we go down and we lay the body down, because the water table is so high in Egypt. We can't have an individual. It's very, very, I mean, I've had to do it. I've had to go down. I've had to redig my grandfather and my grandmother and bury them somewhere else because the road is expanding. It's a very traumatic thing. So all of these things are by necessity. So sometimes we get some leniency, but we try to surround the body with earth as much as possible. That's what matters. And to come back to the question, to do this as soon as possible, as soon as realistic. Because, for example, we can't bury somebody at night. We have to bury during the day. So sometimes somebody dies, so we have to wait a day or two, or we've had a couple of deaths when it was freezing, absolutely like 15 degrees Fahrenheit or something. So we have to wait because the ground is frozen. So these type of delays are okay, inshallah. Yeah, in wartime, in wartime you can pray, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that's Salat al-Duhr. That's all. You don't have to make it up because it's Salatul Khawf. You're in the thick of battle. That's different. In wartime, it's different. Here we're not in war. Alhamdulillah, we're in peace. When we're in war, we'll talk about that. May Allah Ta'ala ward off war from us, inshallah. We have dua events after a person passes. We recite the Quran in a group as a way of the soul benefiting. Any guidance? It's good. I don't know why this question keeps popping up. There must be something in the community about this. But this is, some people call it al-arba'in. They'll wait 40 days after the person has passed and they'll gather, or the anniversary. of the death, and the family will get together and each person will read a juz of Quran. Any good that we do for the deceased is given to the deceased as a general rule. The Quran, the dua, charity, so on and so forth. The Prophet ﷺ said, that our deeds are cut except for three: knowledge that we leave behind, ongoing charity, or waladun salih yad'u lah, or a pious descendant that will make dua for them. However, just to comment, our way as an ummah is we don't celebrate the death of people, we celebrate the birth of people. So we celebrate the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, the Mawlid of the Prophet. We celebrate the Mawlid in Egypt, for example, we have a huge Mawlid for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, because the head of Imam al-Hussein is in Cairo. So we celebrate the birth of Imam al-Hussein, the birth of Sayyidah Zainab, so on and so forth. So there's nothing wrong with this, but I just want to highlight that our way is also to celebrate the milad of a person, not the death of a person. Can a kid call the adhan when adults are present? Yes, you don't have to be an adult to call the adhan as long as the kid has discernment and can recite the adhan. And of course, the adhan is a male-only activity. A woman can give the aqama for women prayers, but when it comes to the congregational prayer, the adhan can be done by a kid as long as they know the time has come in and they know the words of the adhan and they can pronounce it and so on and so forth. And we do that, when one of the young kids does the recitation, they give the adhan, they're all good. If they make a mistake, it's fine, you have to learn. Huh? Yeah, and look, sometimes they make mistakes and that's fine, because if you're not used to it, then, it's not like a natural thing to belt out the adhan. So it's okay that people make mistakes and we can correct them. What is your guidance if we have prayers led by the imam in the new activity building and we have many following and praying in the present building and courtyard with an audio and video feed? Is the prayer valid? 100%. As long as you can follow the imam and the movements of the imam and you are within the confines of the mosque or outside the mosque, then you are fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Part that you're covering as well. I think we have a practical issue, and you're familiar with it as well, because in our offices, we do the Jummah arrangement as well, right? And we try to get imam or somebody do the khutbah, but it's not always possible as well. So one of the things and we've run into practical issues on several Jummahs as well. So is it permissible, let's say, if we're doing the ICCP over here, Jummah, and we stream over there for the khutbah part, and somebody leads the Jummah, and somebody leads the prayers over there, would that be considered permissible, or is it out of bounds?
That won't work. Out of bounds. I like that one. It's out of bounds. It won't work because the distance is too far.
Okay.
So there have to be contiguous rows, and the gap can't exceed like 400 feet, between the rows. So that won't work. Like the TV, radio, streaming Jummah won't work. But if if we had a huge jama'ah, like there were, like in Mecca, there's like 300,000 people praying, there have to be video feeds and stuff and microphones to augment the sound, but they're all contiguous, so that's fine. So as long as you know and you hear what's going on, that's fine. In Islam, in the Sharia, in the pre-modern world, there was a people that was their job. They were called al-muballigh. What they would do is they would repeat what the imam would say, and they would be spread out so that they would like yell. And sometimes if the microphone goes off in our mosque, somebody does that so that everyone can hear what's happening, that's also normal. So this is fine. And what we have here is fine, inshallah.
The high school students, they asked the same question. And what I suggested is they can watch our video stream and then have a Jummah on their own that fulfills the minimum requirements.
Yeah, or they can watch our stream and then they can pray Salat al-Dhuhr.
They could do that.
Another way, yeah. So we can offer, that's a solution. So you can watch the stream so you can hear like you're part of the community, but then you know that you have to do a separate prayer. So either you pray Dhuhr 4 rak'ahs, or you do what we just said, the minimal khutbah, and pray the 2 rak'ahs of Jummah. That would work, yeah.
So we could do the 2 rak'ahs of Jummah.
But somebody would have to do the minimal.
Yes, the dua.
Yeah, the minimum. What we said is for the minimal khutbah. Yeah.
Got it.
If the lines are not contiguous.
Okay.
So if there's a break. what if I am praying and my head covering falls? Is my prayer valid? As long as you catch it and you cover, same thing for a man, or if like you're making a ruku' and your shirt comes up or something falls. As part of your awrah is exposed and you quickly cover it once you notice, then that's fine. But if it falls off, wa alaikum salam, if it falls off and it's like off for too long, then you have broken the condition of prayer. You have to exit the prayer. Well, you've already exited the prayer. You have to re-enter the prayer. But as long as you catch it, then it's excused, inshallah. Can I offer my prayers in the plane while traveling? What is your guidance as time zones change? In the Shafi'i madhab, as I've shared with you before, we do not pray in the plane because one of the conditions for the later Shafi'is is that the prayer has to be contiguous with the earth. So the Shafi'i jurists posited what happens if you're suspended in the air, and they said in that case the prayer is suspended until you return to the earth. So according to the Shafi'i madhab, we do not pray on the plane. However, I do realize that that's a unique position and a minority position, and most of the other madhahib will do pray in the plane. If you pray on the plane, then you have the same conditions. You have to make sure that you're facing the qibla, and you have to make sure that the time has come in, and that can be challenging. So you have to look outside the sun. You probably combine your prayers anyway because you're traveling and shorten them and whatnot. But because of the difficulty, I share with you the Shafi'i opinion so that people know that there's a dispensation. So if you're a Shafi'i or if you follow that opinion, then what happens is you're going to miss those prayers without sin, and then when you land, you're going to make up those prayer qada because you have to make them up, and inshallah there's no sin incurred because you are in a situation in which one of the cardinal conditions of the prayer was not met or fulfilled. If you're praying a fard prayer, you have to continually face the qibla. And you have 45-degree discrepancy. So like from one ear to you have this much discrepancy that you can vary it in. If you're praying a sunnah prayer, then you can face the qibla in the beginning and then you can move however way you want. But if you're praying a fard prayer, you have to continuously face the qibla. And if you are turned away from the qibla, then you have invalidated the prayer. Can I recite the Quran while I'm lying in bed? I guess it says no wudu. Have I to face the Kaaba? No, you can recite the Quran anywhere and any way you want, except if you are in a state of janaba, in which case you just have to take a shower. But that's not an ongoing situation. So lying in bed, standing. وَالَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. People that remember Allah standing, sitting, and lying down. Can a nikah be done first and the civil marriage performed afterwards in the country that I live? Yes, and that's the order that it should take place. The nikah is the marriage, and then the civil marriage is the documentation of the nikah, and then it certifies the marriage took place with the Islamic conditions and that people's rights are maintained. So you should do the civil marriage for sure, but after the nikah. No, we do it together. They bring the marriage license. Yeah, but we do the nikah and fill out the license, so it happens at the same time. So that's the easier way to do it. Actually, I don't think we do it any other way, right? Yeah, we don't do it any other way here. Okay. There are several questions back to back about Qadianis. Maybe I can summarize. Yeah. Okay, there are too many. Let me just summarize them. So the questions about Qadianis and Ahmadis, and this is again a question that's come up from time to time. There are many sects in Islam and there are many groups and whatnot. However, there are those macro level issues that we all agree to. As long as somebody agrees to the macro level issues, then everyone's a Muslim and people just have different beliefs on lesser issues. And that's fine, and we coexist and we don't have a problem with that. But if somebody violates one of the cardinal macro level issues, then they themselves, not me, they have left Islam. They have chosen to leave Islam. I didn't kick anyone out. I have no authority to kick someone out. But if someone doesn't believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the basic things that implies, No, they're not a Muslim. That's the definition of what a Muslim is, as simple as that. So I don't know what the Qadianis believe, because every time somebody talks to me about them or I talk to them, I get 55 different answers. If they believe that this guy was a prophet, that he received revelation, that he's infallible, ma'soom, that's an un-Islamic belief. Then they have removed themselves from Islam. I didn't remove them from Islam. They have removed themselves from Islam. They can call themselves what they want. They can pray however they want. I don't care. Lakum dinukum waliyadin, but they're not Muslim if they believe in that. If they believe that this guy was a cool guy, good guy, mujaddid guy, important guy, illuminated, fine. Then you believe in what we believe in, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. It's just very, very simple type of situation. So that's for them to answer. Any sect that deviates from the vast majority norm of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because we are the majority of the Muslims, 85%. Anyone that veers away from the Amma, the Shia call us the Amma, they even call us the Amma, they call us the majority. Anybody that deviates from that, the simple thing is, what is your point of deviation? Sometimes there are little branch issues. Khalas, then you have your branch issue. We don't do takfir of each other. But if somebody says, I believe that Prophet Muhammad was a prophet only for the Arabs, that's not what Muhammad Rasulullah means. He was a prophet for all of mankind. So, and there have been groups like that throughout history. So that's what I have to say about the Qadianis. That being said, whatever they say or whatever they believe, that doesn't stop us from having good relations with everyone. So just because somebody has a belief that's taken them outside of Islam, that's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we don't want to have conflict with anyone. Our job is not, our mosque is open, and we have many Qadiani people that come to our mosque, we have many Shia people that come to our mosque. Ahlan wa sahlan, we have no problem with anyone. But we're a Sunni mosque, and we follow the Quran and Sunnah according to the Sunni Imams, and that's what we do. But because we are Sunni, we open our arms to everyone. So I don't want this to be an issue. I don't want what I'm saying to say, we have to go attack. I'm not attacking anyone. Again, if somebody doesn't believe in those they're very basic tenets, then khalas, then they're not a Muslim. Then there has to be a definition. There has to be something that is Islam and something that's not Islam. What is that? La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and the basic implications of that. That's it. Simple as that.
This is probably one of the most hotly debated issues in Pakistan, right? I think because of the role and because of the last 30, 40, 50 years. And this came up in terms of declaring them as non-Muslims and not recognizing them as Muslims, and from a government level perspective as well. And I've had several conversations with several of my Qadiani friends, Ahmadi friends as well. Their position is that, he was not the prophet, but he's the messenger, right? And I don't understand the distinction, and I get confused in that as well. But also in terms of how the Pakistan government has actually treated the Ahmadis as well, and in terms of that has also been quite a bit of an issue as well. So I think the question that I have is in terms of, do we as individuals or as a community or anybody has the authority, if they're calling themselves Muslims, whether they follow the tenets or not, that's between them and Allah. Do we as a community or anybody in the community or anybody at any level has the authority to call them as non-Muslims or not?
So the authority to do that is
my friend don't know that it's fatwa against them. Saudi, Masr, Al-Azhar, all Muslim muftis, fatwa against them. Not only Pakistan, all Muslim muftis, fatwa against them. Go on the internet and check it.
The authority to do that does not lie with individuals, but it lies within with either a judge or a formal mufti. So yes, I can understand why the Pakistani government would have a lot of problems because this is a subversive thing to the identity of Pakistan. It's like during the Arab Spring, we had all of this like Shia infiltration in Egypt. You can't come to a country like Egypt and do Shia Husseiniyyat. It's not going to work at all. The people themselves, forget the Azhar, the people themselves will reject that. What are you talking about? That we love Ahlul Bayt in Egypt, and now you're coming to tell us about Ahlul Bayt. We're the ones, we have Ahlul Bayt in Egypt. So it doesn't work. So I can understand why it is a disruptive thing to, it's a security issue for Pakistan or for these countries. I'm speaking from the religious point of view only. I don't know the inner workings of Pakistan Zindabad, okay? I don't know anything about Pakistan or the details of Pakistan. I love all my Muslim brothers and sisters, but I understand where that's coming from. Again, he's not a prophet, but he's a messenger. That doesn't work for me. The Prophet ﷺ is Khatam al-Nabiyyin. That's it. Full stop. Don't play with words. Not you, but I'm saying, so this playing with words, no, he's not Khatam and he's Khatim al-Nabi, but that recitation of the verse has both Khatam and Khatim. It's two recitations of that same verse, subhanAllah. So that stuff doesn't work. Do you say that he receives revelation and that he is infallible? Yes, then that's not Islam. You love the guy, you think he's super cool, he's the Mahdi, okay, that's an issue of bid'ah, but I don't have to do takfir. For us, it's very simple from the religious point of view. My understanding is that the Qadianis also there are groups, there are subgroups, right? They're not all one. So, and I don't know the names of the subgroups, but yes, as our captain mentioned, there are many fatwas against them, but the fatwas against the Qadianis are against those who say that he is a prophet after Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ that receives revelation, because that's just not compatible with our belief. So, I mean, obviously he was not the Mahdi, but okay, fine, they want to believe he's the Mahdi, if that won't take them outside of Islam, but that's an issue of bid'ah, that's a belief that's not correct. But that's not an incorrect belief that removes you from Islam. So we have things that remove you from Islam, and many, many things that don't remove you from Islam. Like a Muslim that drinks alcohol, like a Muslim who doesn't pray because they're lazy. They're still a Muslim. It's a sin, it's bad, but they don't pray because they're lazy. But a Muslim comes and says, there is no prayer. Prayer is only here. That's disbelief. Because you have violated something that we say is necessarily known from the religion. مَعْلُومٌ مِنَ الدِّينِ بِالضَّرُورَةِ. Anybody who negates an issue of consensus, an issue of what is necessarily known by religion, that removes them from Islam. But those things are very few. You have to be mad to say some of those things. That's what we're talking about. Love to everybody. Okay. There's a few questions about dhikr, like what dhikr to say and things like that. I'm also going to lump these together. The Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُ مَا قُلْتُ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. The best thing that I and the prophets before me said was La ilaha illallah. So La ilaha illallah is a good dhikr. The Prophet ﷺ also said that إِنَّهُ لَا يُغَانُ عَلَى قَلْبِي وَإِنِّي لَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ فِي الْيَوْمِ مِئَةَ مَرَّةٍ. My heart is clouded throughout the day and I seek istighfar from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 100 times. A basic dhikr that you can do morning and evening that encompasses everything is astaghfirullah 100 times, to do salawat on the Prophet 100 times with any form, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali, la ilaha illallah 100 times. That's a basic dhikr that kind of checks a lot of boxes of all of the dua, of all of the hadith that talk about the meritorious act of dhikr. I would start with that and we can build on that inshallah. Now I'm listening. You can do all of that, but I'm just trying to give something general because the questioner asked many, should I say this, should I say that? So I'm just saying something general for people to do. Okay, we grew up listening about a hadith that goes something like, most women will be put in the hellfire on the Day of Judgment. Please explain this in detail. It just does not sound right. Especially when there is another one that says paradise is under the feet of a mother. In addition, the amount of changes a woman's body goes through, such as puberty, pregnancies, menopause, etc., it seems most women should be guaranteed Jannah and not the hellfire by the Prophet ﷺ. The hadith does not say that most women will be in hellfire. The hadith says that most people, the greater gender in hellfire are women. Not that most women, there's a big difference between the two. And the Prophet ﷺ was asked why, and he said, because you have a tendency to negate the good that was done to you by your spouses. So a man will be good to his wife and he'll make one mistake and she'll be upset, I haven't seen anything good from you at all. So the Prophet ﷺ qualified that. But also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا امْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ. Allah has given you an example of a believer, the wife of Pharaoh. إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. Build for me a house in paradise and save me from Pharaoh. And then the next, ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحسنت فرجها. And then Allah gives us Mary as an example, عليها السلام. So there are women saints, there are, according to some opinions, women prophets, like some say that Mary was a prophet, the mother of Moses was a prophet, alayhi salam. That was the position of Ibn Hazm and whatnot. So there are plenty examples amongst the women. So that hadith, if you just change the wording of the question to understand what it means, hopefully that will make more sense. As far as what the questioner said about the changes that a woman goes through, absolutely. And that's why Allah Ta'ala has advised us to be kind to women, not the other way around. Allah Ta'ala has, the Prophet ﷺ has told us, rifqan bil qawarir, be gentle with those who are fragile. Allah Ta'ala has advised men to be more compassionate with women exactly for this reason. And yes, paradise is at the feet of the mother, and yes, our duty is to our mother 3 times before it is to our father, and all of those things. So rather than focus on statistically who is more in the hellfire and who, just focus on yourself being the best version of yourself, and inshallah you'll be fine. Inshallah. I have an inquiry about figurines which I have inherited or received as gifts. They are art pieces, and since I grew up in a Catholic household, I'm not sure if I should keep them or not. If not, what would I do with them? Well, if the figurines are Catholic figurines, I would, give them to your local Catholic church, I guess, or a Catholic neighbor. If the figurines are just figurines, because people like to collect that, then, if they have sentimental value and you want to hold on to them for that reason, you can hold on to them. What does the question say? I'm not sure if I should keep them or not. If not, what should I do with them? Yeah. So if there are figurines of like Christ and Mary and Christian type of things, or things of a religious nature, that I would remove from the house for obvious reasons. But if there are things that you inherited from your parents or your grandparents and they have value or sentimental value and they're not of a religious nature, then there's no necessary prohibition. The prohibition against suwar, the prohibition, it's not against pictures. That's a false translation of the hadith. It's a prohibition against statues that are placed for the purposes of worshiping the statue or idol, or aggrandizing somebody. That's what's prohibited. But if you have something small, or like a child's toy or something like that, that's not done with the purposes of worship. So that in and of itself, it would not be impermissible in the context of what the questioner asked. We still have some time, right? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, I'll try to do 1 or 2 more questions. Clearly, I won't get through them all, so I'll have to punt these into the next one, inshallah. I always promise myself not to miss my prayers, but I miss them. What can I do? Can I make up for the missed ones? All missed prayers must be made up, no matter how many are the missed prayers. So that's all you have to do is, you missed a prayer, make sure that you make it up. You have a deficit, you have a backlog of missed prayers for several weeks, months, years. Every time you pray a fard prayer, stand up and pray another fard prayer to make it up until you've made them all up. And then the last question. I wanted to ask if we are allowed to eat kosher meat when halal meat is not readily available. Kosher meat is halal from the Sharia point of view because it's meat that is slaughtered, and it fulfills our obligations for the slaughtered meat. So from the purely Sharia point of view, yes, it's permissible to eat kosher meats and chicken. That is exactly what Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, that the food of the people of Ahlul Kitab is permissible for us. And we have about 15 more questions, so I apologize. We'll get to those in the next one. We'll schedule something else for next month, inshallah. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli afdala salatin ala as'adi makhluqatika sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكره الغافلون.